We are live. The Coffee and Biscotti Show. I'm your host, Crew Mel Bellissimo. It is Friday, October the 22nd, 12 p.m. EST, and it's another good day to be alive. I'm excited today. I'm excited every day, but I'm particularly excited today because I get to hang out with somebody that I'm just getting to know. And that's a really special thing, especially when you're, however many hours away by plane. We're talking to our guest today from just outside of San Diego. And I'll tell you why I'm so excited. Because we got a DJ, the first one coming onto our show that has dedicated his life, who's a real passionate guy. I really like this guy already. We haven't spent a lot of time together, but as we continue to spend time, more and more time, I can see why that he's become a sensation, if you will, on Twitch, because he, on this platform, runs a number of things, but of course has his own show. And I remember back in the day when I was DJing, we heard of people like Redman, Crafty Cuts, A Skills, the freestylers. These are all big names that I remember as a kid, and this guy's had the pleasure of working with all of them and doing music videos for them, and that's cool in my books. I love it. I love that he, and we're going to find out more today, but I love that he is the kind of guy who is unapologetic about the stuff that he does, and that he just wants to live his dream life. And that's exactly what he was doing. You want to take a lesson from today's show? Lesson number one, find out what that dream life actually is. Go and seek it, investigate it, experience things, and then start making plans so that you can start living it. Whatever that means to you, whatever that dream is to you. For me, I love this. I love what I'm doing here on the Coffee and Biscotti Show. I love what I'm doing with Decorous Life and my Clarity Coaching business, which, if I can throw in a little plug here for my vision board workshop, Wednesday, October the 27th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be conducting another free vision board workshop. That's why this particular guest is like, in terms of timing, is absolutely perfect, because the vision board and vision board creation helps in as a tool to develop clarity in your life, in the most important areas of your life. So how cool is it that we get an opportunity to sit down with somebody who's actually living his dream life? I said in my Facebook post, there's just so many credentials. There's just so many things that this guy's done. From traveling, from traveling abroad, working in clubs, DJing, putting together this duo. It's really great and really incredible, the work that this guy's done. And if I can say, I'd like to believe, and I'm sure that he'll share with us today, that it came from his heart, that he did it from his heart. This is why it happened. This is why it's manifesting the way that it is because it came from saying, this is the life that I want. This is my dream life. I'm going to go and live it, despite what anybody else has to say. So I'm super, super excited for our guest today, folks. So let's bring him on. So wherever you are in the world, my friends, get off of your comfortable seat and put your hands together for Maculate, aka DJ Maculate.
How's it going, Mel?
What's up there, champ? How you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on the show.
It's an absolute pleasure, Mac. Absolute pleasure. Um, I think that my intro sums it up. I'm always inspired by people who kind of say in their life, I don't really give a shit what anybody says. I'm just gonna do what I want to do. I'm gonna do what I love to do. And even days that we love to do it, I know that it's work. I'm sure we're going to talk about that. That there are its ups and downs, even when pursuing a dream life. But the fact that you've gone and done it is really inspiring. So before we really get into it, Mac, what I like to do is I like to sort of give an opportunity for our friends in what we call the Twitchyverse to get to know Mac and get to know what he's about and get him to know. So if you could, Mac, paint us a picture of who DJ Maculate really is and how this all came to be.
Sure. Yeah, as you alluded to in your introduction, I'm definitely a person that is happiest when I am following my passions and my interests. And I think for the last 20 years or so, my biggest passion has been music. I think particularly in the creation side in general. So I got into first playing instruments, drums, and then got into recording music using digital audio workstations, learning how to record music, write my own songs, make my own remixes. That quickly led to DJing, which I was surprised I didn't get into earlier, just being a big hip hop fan since middle school, since middle school and high school. Um, and then after moving to China in 2008, we can, I guess, get into this part of the journey a little bit later, but um, started to get into video. So basically, this path from music creation to music mixing to music video creation. And I think I've always been the happiest when I'm creating things and in a flow state, so to speak. Um, let's see, some other quick pieces of info about me. Yeah, as you said, I've lived around the world, lived around the United States, and lived in China for 7 years. I was born in Washington, D.C., lived in Bethesda, Maryland for the first few years of my life, then grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, went to undergrad and University of Colorado in Boulder, Colorado. Then went to study abroad in Shanghai, China for my last year of college and ended up deciding to find a job while I was there. So turned into 7 years total living in China, working as a creative director at a media company, primarily radio. Then also working as a DJ and a VJ, music video creator while I was living out there. In addition to my other primary job out there was brand ambassador for Chivas Regal, the whiskey company. Um,
Wow.
then after 7 years of living in China, decided, I guess for a while, I was thinking I didn't want to live in China forever, although I did enjoy my life out there. My family's back here in the United States. My culture and things are here in the United States. So decided to apply for a master's program at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh in entertainment technology. So came back home to Pittsburgh to get my master's there. Then went up to New York City to work for 2 years after graduation for Viacom Next, working in Times Square on virtual reality and augmented reality. That division of Viacom ended up folding as they were looking to restructure before their merger with CBS. So then I accepted a job out at Facebook, also working on augmented reality for about 2 years, and then almost 1 year ago to the day, I left that job. I guess it was 1 year and 5 days to the day. I decided to leave that job at Facebook to focus on video DJ streaming on Twitch and music video creation full time. And then eventually, as the world opens back up, live shows as well, which has started.
Hmm. That's
So
awesome. What a great introduction. I mean, I have so many questions. I mean, the truth is Mac, tell us a little bit more about what, like, I don't, what's augmented reality versus virtual reality. What's involved when you're saying you're video DJ? What does that really mean? What are you doing? What do you do on your show?
sure. Quickly on the augmented reality versus virtual reality. So I think it's a spectrum between the two, and it will increasingly, I think, be understood as a spectrum more going in the future. But basically, um, you can think of virtual reality as you're putting on a headset and it is replacing all of the visuals in the real world with digital imagery. So it's basically like you're being transported to another place. There is nothing that you can see from the real world, so to speak. Augmented reality is on the other side of the spectrum, where you can still see parts of the real world, but it's inserting digital imagery into the real world. A lot of people are familiar with the technology through like face filters on Instagram or Facebook, where basically it'll put a mask over your face. Pokemon Go, whose company Niantic, my brother actually works for in San Francisco, they're another really common example where you're placing the Pokemon characters into your environment. And usually a feature of augmented reality is it does it intelligently. Basically, it's able to parse out the actual 3D geometry of the space to be able, whether it's your face, which usually these technologies are the best at doing, and then missing some sort of digital imagery that will be tracked to your face, no matter where you move it, or into the real world environment. So that's a quick introduction to augmented reality versus virtual reality. Video DJing. So video DJing is very much like regular DJing. You are mixing music, and generally speaking, you're going to have a turntable on your left, a turntable on your right, track A, track B, mixing between the two. Video DJing is very much the same way, but I'm mixing a music video A and a music video B together, and then doing a performance that way. So like used to see the music videos on MTV, mixing all of those, but then what I do is I make most of my own music videos. I've made I think over 1,300 over the last decade, most of which actually, many of which in the last year. Um, and I sample footage from famous movies, from TV shows, from animations, from other music videos, and basically repurpose those and resync those to new pieces of music to make my own music videos that then I will mix in my shows on Twitch.
Wow. Wow. I don't know, man. I'm not a technology guy, so all of this sounds like far out for me. That's like I can't. I mean, I'll tell you this, Mac. I remember that my DJ friend in Toronto, he gave me a hard drive that had like 500 or 600 music videos, but the actual videos of the artist. And what they could do
Yep.
is that you could take a screen from your computer and bring it onto another screen, and it's connected to your controller so that you could play the
Yep.
video, and as you're mixing, the video would change. Is that sort of something similar?
That's video DJing right there.
There you go. Yeah, which was a lot of fun because people would like people would people loved it because they could actually see the artist up on the screen while you're mixing, and of course, if you're beat mixing well, there's no break in the music. You just kind of slide over, and you see the image change on the screen. That's awesome stuff. But you take it a
Yeah.
step further, right?
I think yeah, what's interesting about adding visuals to DJing, and Twitch has been a big part of that, is a lot of DJs that had never been using visuals before are starting using visuals just because the medium of Twitch allows for it and makes it a lot. And it actually makes it, I don't know, necessary to some degree because there is a visual component more so than traditional DJing. But it was, I believe, Steven Spielberg and David Lynch both said that um, audio is 50% of the basically of the movie experience. And so if you think about that, I'm not sure what the percentages break down to, but something like 50% of it is the visuals. And they were basically talking about how important sound design and music is to movies, which I wholeheartedly agree with. Um, but basically, the idea is that for DJing, I think there is this whole other potential, 50% or whatever the percentage is, to affect people's emotion, affect people's experience by the visuals that you're delivering to them. It gives different meaning to the music, and can create not necessarily a better experience, but I think definitely a different experience. And one other really nice thing about video DJing is I think most people that aren't DJs, when they listen to a DJ playing, even maybe if they're watching their hand motions on the mixer and the turntables, they don't quite know exactly what's happening. But when you have visuals and music videos that are tied to the audio one to one, when I'm mixing in a different song or I'm scratching in a different song, you can see that new content that are coming in. Your brain is basically able to look at, okay, as he's scratching, I can see that image basically scratching back and forth. So I think it is a way for people also to understand a little bit more what's going on in the DJ process, to have that visual component as well.
That's awesome. I would like to say a deeper connection to what's happening to the live event that's happening, because I've read about this, Mac, a lot about how we talk about the idea of consciousness, and sort of from a metaphysical perspective, that when we're watching a movie, sometimes if the movie's so good or put together, pulls at the heartstrings or whatever, you're so into it that the only thing that the directors wish they could do is like have smell-o-vision, where you can actually smell what's happening in the scene or what have you. So I love that, because it really does put a deeper connection. And I really love that you said that it's about getting somebody who's watching that maybe doesn't understand DJing. You could actually have a visual as to what's happening and what the DJ is actually doing. That's awesome. No wonder why there's a ton of followers that are, and every time they come onto your stream, we spoke about this the other day, it's a brand new experience.
Yeah. So my channel, and I've done this somewhat intentionally, is that so I have a YouTube channel, and I have hundreds of my music videos that are on that YouTube channel. So people can see those. Oftentimes, yeah, other video DJs will mix those videos as well. But intentionally over the last year, basically the hundreds and hundreds of music videos that I've made over the last year, um, I keep them exclusively on my channel. So that basically my channel is the one place that people can come to, and giving them a very unique, um, special experience that they can't see somewhere else. And every week I work really hard. Basically, most of my free time, is I'm making new music videos. So every time somebody tunes in, they're going to be seeing new music videos when they come in, and it's become a thing on my channel where I make a big show out of it. How this is world premiere number one, this is world premiere number two, etc.
That's awesome. Well, they're going to get a little bit of a sample today, won't they, Mac, our guest today? Because if
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not
right.
mistaken,
Right after this, we're gonna be raiding over to Funklectic, and I'll be kicking off Funklectic in about an hour. And yeah, you'll see a little bit of what I do.
yeah. So what we'll do is, Mac, for all intensive purposes, we'll end just a few minutes before, so that you can go and have your time.
Yeah.
Our friend Pootie Nation says he's down for put him for +1 for sizzling bacon smell-o-vision. I love it. Right on, Josh.
Delicious.
Delicious. So, Mac, you've had quite a life. I mean, I spent 2 years myself in Thailand, and living in the Far East, and what a wonderful experience it was. Can you talk a little bit about what was it like, and some of the success that you had in China working for this media company?
Sure. Yeah, I think to take it back a little bit, I started studying Chinese language in high school. We had to pick a language, and I recognized that there were more people speaking Chinese than anything else on the planet by virtue of um, how many Chinese people there are speaking Chinese. So I thought that would be useful. I also thought it would be interesting. There are not many people, particularly at that time. It's changed a little bit since then, that could speak Chinese. So I thought it would be interesting. And I think that was kind of a guiding principle of going to China and staying in China. Is I think I do want life to be different for me. I want it to be interesting. And China was always that. Sometimes it was good interesting, sometimes it was bad interesting, but it was always interesting. And yeah, it was definitely a roller coaster of a ride, so to speak. Yeah, with some really high moments, definitely some really low moments, as most people have in their lives. I had a great time studying abroad. Really good friends out there. I decided to focus on improving my language skills primarily through that study abroad program. Um, and then after I graduated, I decided I wanted to look for a job out there. So I think I was looking for something in media, something music related if I could, and found this company called Soulfire that they eventually expanded a little bit more into a media company, but it was primarily a radio station, and actually a radio company that was broadcasting to, I think, 9 different cities all across China. And it was basically lifestyle programming. So they wanted to cater to a certain type of lifestyle. So we did a lot of shows about wine and travel and business. Was sort of one half of it, and then the other half of it was all about kind of fine music, sophisticated music, as they like to call it. And so it was a lot of shows about jazz music and some singer songwriter and some funk music, um, which was really cool. And so I started as a writer. It's definitely challenging. The shows were all in Chinese, so I was writing. I think I would write the shows generally in English, and then I would work with the hosts who all could speak English as well, to kind of fine tune the shows that they would talk about. And generally, like the shows, you would try and have a Soulfire insight. So there was kind of like one takeaway that you would have from each show, that you could kind of go and share with other people. So it would be things like we had a show about like really really good stereo systems, and how basically if you don't have a really good sound system, you're only listening to one half of the music, and then kind of going into frequencies and what the benefits of having a good sound system and those kinds of things are, as an example. Um,
Cool.
and then after about a year of writing for that station, and at this time I was DJing and BJing, starting to BJ out there in China as well, sort of in my free time. Sometimes during work time, it would be downloading music videos and things to sample. It's okay. I can say it now. I can admit it now. Which has always kind of been the case. My mind's gonna go where my mind's gonna go. Um, and after about a year, I decided, I wanted to find another opportunity. And I actually was pursuing a job at an art gallery. Seemed like a pretty good gig. And then when I told Soulfire that I was leaving, they basically went and looked at we would do ratings, internal ratings for all the different shows that we would do. And they found that basically all of the shows that I was writing had the highest ratings out of any of of the shows that we were doing. So at that time they said, actually, hey, like we want to keep you. We're going to make you creative director at this, in order to entice you to stay. So I decided to stay at Soulfire. But still, my time at Soulfire, my mind was always split between kind of this job that I enjoyed, but my real passion was in DJing and music production, and increasingly in VJing and music video creation. So I sort of like the thing I did a year ago. I ended up leaving Soulfire to kind of pursue um, these other passions with a little bit more of my full being.
Now, Mac, but there
So
was a couple of like big things you did out there. I mean, Josh wrote in the chat. Don't forget about winning a syndicated Chinese TV game show. What was that all about?
yeah, it's actually, I think the day I left Soulfire, coincidentally, I got a call from a friend who knew that I spoke Chinese, and he was a host on this national game show called Lao Wai Zuo Ke, which is like kind of foreigners do work or foreigners do homework. Um, and he asked me, "Hey, do you want to come be on this game show?" And I'm like, "Of course I do." And so he gave me an address, and I showed up to the address knowing nothing about what I was going to do. And I tell this story on my Twitch shows sometimes. One of my favorites to tell. And I show up and it's a bowling alley, which I'm thinking in my head, that is fortuitous, because there was a period in high school where I would go bowling almost every single day with a few of my friends. Big bowling fan. Although I hadn't bowled in a few years, I was like, okay, this is a good sign. So it turns out this is a game show that they would focus on a different country every week and have different theme challenges based on that country. So the country was Egypt, and apparently bowling was invented in Egypt. So the very first challenge that we did was bowling, and basically the show, you would pair a local Chinese person with a foreigner, and then they would go head to head with each other. I think there were three pairs of us. So I was paired with a Chinese woman. Um, in that first competition, it wasn't fair at all. All the other five people, I don't think they'd ever been bowling before. And again, I had been bowling a lot in my youth. And I think and I bowled really well. I was just, surprisingly, after not bowling for a while. So I was bowling all kinds of strikes and spares. I think my score might have been more than all of the other five people combined, something like that. So we easily won the first part of the competition. Second part of the competition was cooking. I think I've become a little bit better of a cook since coming back to the States, but I was not a good cook and didn't know much about cooking. But thankfully my partner, very good cook. So I kind of hammed it up with the hosts, talking in Chinese, laid back. I didn't do anything for the cooking, while my partner cooked up some Egyptian cuisine, some really delicious Egyptian cuisine, and we won that part. Third part was a trivia competition, and it was all about Egyptian trivia. Neither of us knew anything about Egypt, but it was multiple choice, and we lucked into getting I think all of our answers correct. In this portion, if you got something incorrect, they would blast you with cold air, like in your face. So we were sort of sitting there seeing this happen to the other pairs, but I don't think it happened to us once. Again, I think we got all of the answers correct, and so we won that part, and we should have won the show. And we won all three rounds. But then they came to us and they said, "Hey, if you like want to win the day, you can risk what you've done so far in this final bonus competition, or like go home with a smaller prize or something like that." So I go to my partner and I say, "You want to risk it?" We were kind of like, "Hey, we've won everything so far. Let's do it." Um, and so the final competition was, they buried my partner in sand up to, like, I think almost up to her neck, basically a very small container of sand. And then they gave me 5 minutes to dig her out. I think we had some small like shovels and things to do it. And there's a whole big like studio audience around us watching. and we begin, and immediately after about 15 seconds, sand is incredibly heavy. So I'm exhausted, like just shoveling after a very short amount of time. So I'm continuing, as the time is going, and it gets down to about 15 seconds, and the sand's still around like her waist, and maybe down, a little bit around there. So I furiously am shoveling out the sand, and it's down to 5 seconds, and then the announcer starts saying 5, 4, 3. And finally, I get her out of the sand, and I pick her up in a fireman's carry. It's basically just over my shoulder. Carry her out as the time, right as the time's expiring, and the crowd goes absolutely crazy, and we won the competition. A couple people came up to me after it, and Chinese people in the audience, and they're telling me we were so moved by this performance that we were like in tears, just this, like, how exciting it was at the end. And the biggest shame of this entire thing was I've never seen it. So they gave us a DVD, like, with the show on it, but it, like, the data was corrupted or something on it. So I've never seen this show, but is yeah, one of my most memorable experiences in China for sure.
That's awesome. Sounds like a pretty good day. Was it over the course of one day?
One day, yeah.
That's awesome. What a great story. But Mac, you did even more than that. I mean, maybe that's one of the memorable, but you put together a duo. What was the duo's name?
Yeah, so Evil Einsteins,
That's right.
in my undergrad, University of Colorado, there was a friend of mine that lived 3 doors down from me, named Charles Wolcott, who is known as MC One Consciousness. I don't think he had this name at the time, but he developed it a bit later. And he was known in our dormitory as the rapper. He was already a really talented rapper then. He would just freestyle all the time. I was making a little bit of music then, my freshman year, but not much. I got more into the music production and music performance, I think, my sophomore year, when I brought my drum set out to Colorado. But after, I think, my first year living out in China, I came back to visit the US. I would come back every year. And Charles happened to be visiting Pittsburgh, where I'm from, and I was telling him about my experience living in China, and kind of how much I was enjoying it, how interesting it was. And he was kind of looking for a change in his life as well. So he was like, "I'm going to do this semester at sea program, and basically go to China as well." I guess he had already done the semester at sea. Yeah, I guess that was right before that. So I'm going to go and do an English first program in China, where basically I'm paid to be an English teacher. And so he came out there, and he actually pressured me. I had all my DJ equipment and records and things back in Colorado, but I wasn't able to bring any of that to China with me. But what I did do is I bought a small DJ controller, the Vestax VCI 100. This is one of the first, like, legit DJ controllers. And
Did you read that, Mac?
yeah, I did. I might have some headphones. I could try.
Yeah, he just messaged me, so he decided to put it in the chat. I don't know. Like I said, I'm getting a lag on my end, but only for the video, not for the audio.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Yeah, should I try and grab some headphones?
Yeah, sure. Just so that we
Okay.
don't lag.
Okay, I'll be right back.
And for everybody in the audience today, please, participate in the chat. Let us know where you're from. Let us know if you're going to be able to stick around and watch DJ Maculate do his handiwork today. We're going to raid directly to Funklectic. Josh, video's good here. Can you hear? You're fine too. There's just 1 second lag with you. Okay, I got it. He's going to go look for a pair anyway. Thanks, Josh. Yeah, so good a time as ever to sort of, again, for all my friends that are here. I want to invite you all to a vision board workshop that I will be running on Wednesday, October the 27th. sponsored by Decorous Life. We are going to be, or I'm going to be putting on a workshop for all of you that are interested. It will be streamed on Twitch with the help of our friend Poutine Nation. So you can come onto the Zoom link. There is a events. Let me see if I can do that, Josh. I'm even going to try to copy and paste. Look at me getting all technological and stuff. In the chat, guys, you'll see the events.com landing page. So if you'd like to join us, please do. We will be streaming live on Twitch, but it will be through Zoom.
Is that any better, Josh? Can you hear me?
Josh, how does that sound? Just to make sure. He said there was only about a second lag. Keep talking. Yeah, keep telling that story, Mac.
Yeah. Okay. So so he ended up moving out to China, and I got the DJ controller, the BCI, the Bestax BCI 100, and there was a party for English First, the company he was working for, and they needed a DJ for a party, so he basically signed us up to go play at a show. And I was still working at Soulfire at the time, and basically feverishly prepared for this show over the course of a month or so. And basically we had our debut, the Evil Einsteins debut at this party. I think the name Evil Einsteins came from the idea that we were kind of like mad scientists working on our craft. I was doing a lot of interesting things with technology, combining technology with music, and him with his lyricism and sort of rapping style. And we made our debut at that show, and then afterwards we ended up continuing to perform at different bars and clubs around China. Ended up playing at the MIDI Festival, the oldest running music festival in China, which is fantastic. Performed at some huge like 7-day festival where we would go and perform every single day for different audiences. And we would film what our performances and film him rapping around different places in China as we traveled around. I ended up making a music video that's up on my YouTube channel that mixes together some of that live footage of us performing together, along with a lot of samples from different movies and TV shows and animations, similar to the things that I'm doing today.
Awesome. Just sorry, Mac. Josh is telling me maybe we should switch back. That he said this one seems to be a little bit worse.
Okay.
But Mac, maybe I should wait till you got it.
I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me. Perfect. Yeah. So what I was going to say is that so you've had all this experience. I want to know, like, where did you get all of this inspiration from? Like, first of all, I want to know, like, in terms of hip hop, who were your sort of go-to artists back in the day?
Yeah. First with the artists. So my biggest inspirations and favorites in, I guess, in middle school and high school, when I was kind of developing my my tastes, the Roots were one of my absolute favorite out of Philadelphia, with Black Thought and Questlove, going to see several of their shows and just being insanely impressed with how every time I would go to one of their shows, it would be completely different. So there's some acts that you see, and every time you see them, they're going to play the same hits and it's going to be the same. But every time I would go to see them, it would be different. And there was this very organic sound to what they were doing. They were doing a lot more live instrumentation compared to most hip hop. And other favorites, Outkast, Mos Def,
Nice.
and Talib Kweli. Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, just a lot of the really fantastic boom bap, 90s underground kind of hip hop. But yeah, my inspirations go pretty wide, especially now as a DJ. So my inspirations, though, I think, to bring me on the journey that I'm currently on. So musically, I guess, to continue that thought, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday. There was a big funk influence, I think, into my favorites in rock and in hip hop. I didn't really, know too much about funk music specifically to begin with, but there was lots of influences of it in my favorite music. So Red Hot Chili Peppers were one of my favorites in high school, and particularly their older, really funky stuff. And then through most of my favorite hip hop, old like Ice Cube and stuff like that, they were sampling stuff that I didn't know at the time, but later I would understand, sampling George Clinton, Parliament Funkadelic, James Brown, all of this kinds of stuff that as soon as I started listening to it, I naturally loved, just, I think, because of all of the influence and samples that I'd heard in the other genres. So that had a really deep influence into my music, and I think kind of became the core of what I would love about most music. I would go very eclectic with my styles going forward after that. But that always there's kind of a core of some funk to it, whether it's hip hop or drum and bass or electronic music or hip hop, any of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can understand why, Mac, because I mean, we talked the other day. I mean, some of the old beats, there's a guy that I follow on Instagram now that all he does on his Instagram channel, Mac, is he calls it "If You Didn't Know" or something like that. And it was this DJ who just says, "If you didn't know that this track was actually sampled by this person who came out with this track in like 1974."
Love it.
And yeah, absolutely. And I love what he's doing with it too, because you know I still have teenagers that are training with me, in Muay Thai, Mac, that are still, "Hey, crew, did you hear that track? Did you hear that?" Hey, man, that track, that sample's older than me.
The
That's how
best.
far back it goes.
Love it.
But what about Mac? Like, you've won some awards now. I want to certainly spend some time talking about Funklectic. Tell us a little bit about all of these awards that you've just won, 2021 or 2020.
Sure. Yeah, about a year ago, I think a little over a year ago, I was invited to join a group of DJs called Global Funk Fam, created by a handful of DJs in the UK, Hong Kong Ping Pong, DJ Detta, Crash Party, and a few others. Cy Smith, not a DJ, but part of that original crew that created Global Funk Fam. And that was a huge honor. It's basically exactly the type of music and music scene that I've been in for the last decade plus. And over the last year, been working with them on events and cross promoting what I'm doing and what they're doing. And they created an award show that they held a few months ago called the Funkies, the Global Funk Fam Funkies, the first of its kind. And basically they had a whole bunch of different categories and had the community vote on who they wanted to win. And there was a couple rounds for a few of the categories. And the big ones that I was very fortunate to win. Actually, here, I'll show you. I can show you the award.
Awesome.
So I won best emote. So people that are on Twitch are familiar. I should actually drop one of these emotes in the chat. There it is, for my gold heart.
Show and tell time.
Yeah, which is also, so on my channel, I have a number of different channel point redemptions. One of them is story time, where I tell things like the game show story. There's also show and tell, which is actually pretty difficult because I didn't bring a ton of stuff out here to California other than my music equipment, so there isn't as much to show. But this is an example of that. The second award that I won was best event, best raid event, but basically best event, best long standing event that runs more than once of the year for Funklectic. We'll talk a little bit more about that, I think.
Absolutely.
But that's basically the event that I've run every week for the last 69 weeks. Today is Funklectic Volume 69. So every single Friday, no Fridays off, including Christmas. And so very fortunate to win that one as well. And then the big one, though, is Global Funk Fam Funky's 2021 Artist of the Year. So is incredibly surprised and fortunate to step against really incredible competition in our community, Hong Kong Ping Pong B-side, and a whole bunch of other just really, really great and accomplished DJs to win that.
That's awesome. Well, certainly some congratulations is in order indeed. But I guess that, I'd like to spend a little time, Mac, talking about Funklectic and how this all came to be, because I want to even go a little bit deeper, because I know that the reason why Putti Nation, put us together was because you're a spiritual guy. You have some things that that you're a huge proponent of. You talk on your show about getting enough sleep and daily meditation and exercise. I want to kind of go there a little bit, because that's the stuff that really touches me, and I know for those that are following, especially if they're sort of from my crew, if you will, they know that that's an important thing for me. Talk us through a little bit about that, Mac.
Sure. So shortly after coming out here, so actually to walk it back even a little further than that. So right before coming out to California, in between when I left New York City, when Viacom Next ended up folding, where I was working in New York City, I came back to Pittsburgh to kind of plan my next move, and I was DJing and video DJing and creating music videos during that time. But I was also undergoing a transformation. I had, for a long time, I had wanted to lose weight. Basically, when I moved out to China and going into my master's program, I had put on quite a bit of weight. It was difficult for me living out in China to eat healthy and to be exercising and doing some of the things that I had done when I was living out in Colorado and other places. So I put on some weight. So it started when I was in New York, but really when I came back to Pittsburgh, started doing keto. For people that are not familiar with keto, it's like the Atkins diet, but basically you're just having as little carbohydrates as you can and as little sugar as you possibly can. So no noodles, no rice, no pizza, no desserts, none of that stuff. So it was a really difficult transition for me, especially when I was living in New York and you walk down any street and every third establishment is a pizza place or a donut shop or something like that. The temptations are really difficult. But coming back to Pittsburgh, I was really sticking with it. And then also getting into exercise, and actually fun exercise. So through virtual reality that we were talking about before, was really amazing about this technology, and something I had been kind of seeking for a while through the Nintendo Wii, which didn't quite live up to the dream. But with virtual reality, basically, it can track your motion of your hands and your head down to the millimeter level. And so what that allows is for games to actually become much more about motion than about sedentary, just sitting and playing with a controller like games have been in the past. And what's really cool about that is that allows you to actually be getting cardio exercise depending on how vigorous certain games were. And so that was something I was very actively trying to do, is seek out games and experiences that I could be exercising and getting some cardio while playing. There was one game that came out called Beat Saber. Beat Saber is now is by far the best selling game in VR. You'll see commercials about it on TV. But basically, it's like a Guitar Hero style game where there's different songs, and the different songs are represented with different notes that are coming towards you. And there's a red note and a blue note, red notes and blue notes. The red notes you hit with your red hand, and the blue notes with your blue hand. The red hand has a red lightsaber, and the blue hand a blue lightsaber. But basically, this game, when you play it at its top level, you're doing all of these very complex moments and really movements and really dancing. So I started playing this game every day as my cardio, along with exercise and building this things in my life. So moving out to California and accepting the job at Facebook, that was something that concerned me. Was sort of, how am I going to keep up this same balance that I've built up, what with the pressures of a new job. And I did. But one of the things that really helped me do that was a few months into my time at Facebook, I heard that there was a group meditation going on at Facebook. So there's always interesting things going on at Facebook, different things you can go and try and do. And I had tried a little bit of meditation before this and had heard about what it can do for you, but I hadn't really tried it much or thought enough about it. But I went and did this group meditation, and it just felt right. It felt perfect. What the guide was telling us, everything I was learning about it. And actually, right at the same time, I had just bought a Kindle, and I think I'd been listening to a few audiobooks and things before that. But getting that Kindle was really transformative as well, because I went, and particularly after going to this group meditation class, I went and just bought all these books about meditation and mindfulness, and just pouring through them as much as I could, and becoming, you could say, somewhat like obsessed with the topic. And really, there is the spiritual side of it, and I think I am interested in that side of it. But there was a very, very scientific part of it that I think was probably what at least initially attracted me to it. And so I think when I first started meditating, my biggest goal was two things. So I wanted to be able to focus more, and I could feel myself just whenever I'm doing certain activities, just not being able to focus maybe like I could before, or like I wanted to. And I heard meditation can help with your focus. The second one was about being in the present moment. I think I've always been troubled with this idea in my life that I would be certain places and never really feel like I was enjoying that current moment and being in the present, feeling like my brain was somewhere else. And as I would learn later, this is the human condition, is our brain is always thinking about the future, thinking about the past, but more about the future. As I've learned in this great book, Hyper Focus, I think it's 52% of the time our brain is thinking about the future, either later today or tomorrow, most specifically, but then also a little bit further than that. But I learned that, meditation can help you be more grounded in the present moment. And that was just music to my ears. So, but going through all these books, my very favorite one of all of them, and I read probably at least 20 books on meditation, mindfulness, Buddhism, listening to a lot of them. I would listen to audiobooks while going for my runs and things like that, driving to work. My favorite one is Why Buddhism is True: The Science and Philosophy of Meditation and Enlightenment. Fantastic book. But basically everything I was learning in these books is just like, wow. I wish I had learned about this sooner. I wish somebody had told me about the importance of meditation earlier in life, but better late than never. And what's really great, and one of the things I was considering doing when I was thinking of leaving Facebook was, this is what I want to do, is I want to go and share the things that have been so useful for me for other people, because I know that they can be. It's basically working out and exercising is exercise for your body. Meditation is exercise for your mind. It's so essential. And there are some schools and things that are starting to teach mindfulness, I think in the UK as part of their curriculum, and some in the US. But I think it'll become even more and more widespread as time goes on. But yeah, I was thinking of becoming a meditation teacher or life coach, or even being, you know, a Buddhist monk and going out and meditating on the mountains. And then COVID hit. And actually, what I had decided to do, I was going to go back and get my second master's degree at New York University, New York University's Game Center, which was the best game design school in the country. So I applied in, I think, 2019 to go to this school. And part of my application, I was saying I want to make games about meditation. I want to be helping people. I want to be doing these certain things. And then I got into this program. Luckily, I was all set to go and basically leave Facebook, and then COVID hit. I was thinking, you know, schools are very, very different right now. People are basically going to class on Zoom. It's like, this is a whole lot of money for me to go and like be taking Zoom classes. So I deferred for 1 year. And decided I would kind of keep going the path that I was going, and then I would go the next year, you know, when COVID hopefully calmed down a little bit. But very interestingly, during COVID opened up a brand new door, is because all the clubs and bars were closed from COVID. A lot of the DJs were going on Twitch. They're starting to go on Twitch. And my friend Dunks from the Funk Hunters messaged me one day, and he said, "Hey, I'm doing this big show for Westwood Recordings on Twitch on 420. Can you send me some of your music videos for the show?" And so we've been trading music videos for a decade or so. But yeah, I sent him a whole bunch of videos. And then watching his show, I saw him play some of my music videos, and that was the moment where I said, okay, yeah, I had been thinking of going on Twitch because I had other friends who were doing it, but I was like, nope, now is the time. I'm going to buy this crappy green screen. I'm going to buy a video interface, and I'm getting on Twitch. And it just completely changed my life. What other people were experiencing in COVID was the worst year of their lives. And I sympathize with that. For me, it was kind of the opposite. It was this amazing gold lining. You know, you say silver lining. This is a gold lining for me, where I was presenting this opportunity, which was exactly what I needed. I had been video DJing before that, and but I never really had the platform or had the ability. Most clubs are not set up for video DJing or for videos in general, and so I couldn't really show people what I was doing. But then I got onto Twitch, and it was literally just the perfect combination, not only of being able to show people the videos that I was making, but also a couple other crucial components. So there is this idea of getting on the microphone and actually connecting with people, which I think connected to some of my strengths of my master's program, giving presentations and working as brand ambassador for Chivas Regal, where I would travel all around giving presentations, giving speeches in Chinese. And so to kind of connect it back to your original question, this also provided exactly what I was thinking of doing, leaving in Facebook in the first place, which was it provided me this platform that not only could I be sharing music and sharing community with people, I could also be sharing with them all of these things that have been so useful to me. And it's become, you know, kind of a joke in my stream how much I talk about it. But you know, oftentimes I'll sign off my streams and I'll say, don't forget, you know, the 3 things. Basically, make sure you get 8 hours of sleep every night. Make sure you're exercising daily. Make sure you meditate for at least 10 minutes a day. But I'm able to go deeper about these topics in my streams. You know, there's a very conversational way of streams that I can talk with my audience, and I can share with them these things that have been so valuable for me. And one of the things that has been just so amazing of the last year is how many people have said, "Oh, I went and I read your book. I read that book, Why We Sleep, that you talk about all the time." And it is, you know, and now I'm actually prioritizing my sleep. Oh, I went and read that book on meditation. I tried meditation. Now I'm meditating. Or you convinced me to go and start running and get back exercising and things, like seeing what you're doing. So it has just been an unbelievable opportunity and platform for me to kind of do all of these things combined into one package.
Yeah, I mean, so much to unpack there, Mac. But I love that you're doing it. I mean, like I said earlier, for me, this has been a 25-year journey for me. One of our guests in the Twitchiverse, Mac, is a woman who is an intuitive and a healer and a channeler, Twillo lifestyle. And she just writes meditation raises the vibes. It's sort of a great lead into the question. So aside from losing the weight and coming back and getting into this, what has it done for you? How has it changed? Like how has life changed for you because you've adopted some of these important principles in your life, and what has it done for you?
Yeah, so a really common question in my streams, sometimes people joke that I'm a robot, just because they recognize that I'm doing so much. And so I'm making so many music videos every week, sometimes as many as 20, brand new music videos. I'm streaming oftentimes 5, 6, 7 times a week. I'm supporting other streamers. I'm there, supporting other people. I'm also getting 8 hours of sleep a night and exercising and doing some of these other things. And they're like, how do you possibly have the time and the energy to do all these things? But my answer is, it goes back to those 3 things. It's like how I'm able to do all these things. And this is kind of like the wisdom that I've gained is like all the things I was trying over the last few years is kind of like experimenting on my body is like, hey, I've heard this thing might be useful. I'm going to try this thing. If it feels like it makes my life better, then I'm going to keep doing it. So those things basically became kind of my core, that's meditation, sleeping 8 hours a night, exercising every day, reading, getting outside, and actually I have a list of over 20 or 30 things that I try and do every day. I don't do all of them every day. But basically just step by step, and figuring out how to optimize my life. There's this famous movie, Groundhog Day, one of my dad's favorites. And it's actually
Yeah.
looked at as sort of a Buddhist kind of reawakening or reincarnation story. That's sort of how I looked at it at points, is basically, to spoil the movie a little bit for some people that don't know, basically Bill Murray's character is in Punxsutawney, in Pennsylvania, outside of Pittsburgh. And I think he's from Pittsburgh, maybe in the movie. And he keeps waking up to the same exact day. And he's kind of a jerk. And he's very selfish. And he keeps reliving the same day. And he's trying to figure out, a couple of things, like what do I do with my life? How do I get out of this? But also, like, what do you do with your life when, how do you give your life meaning? And what he gravitates towards at the end of the movie is basically he ends up like living the perfect day. And the perfect day basically involves him, successfully courting the woman that he's interested in, helping other people in numerous ways, and just doing all these various things. That's kind of how I looked at, like, I think my process was kind of like that, is I was just sort of like adding these different things and kind of trying to maximize every day. And I think that's what some of these things have done for me. And to expand on that, for the last year, I've never been so creatively fulfilled in my entire life. There's been times where I've, been happy creatively, but I think there's a couple of things that were missing, and one of the big ones that was missing is this idea of this platform and this consistent platform that I have, that now with this community and this audience that I built up. Every single time, I come on Twitch, there's going to be at least a small crowd that are there. And that's this opportunity to continually be creating and continually be innovating with the types of shows that I'm doing and creating different types of shows for my audience. And what's really amazing, and I've talked about this with some friends, is that I think for the first time in my life, I've always been afraid of, like anybody else, of death, and how things are finite, in this world. We want them to be infinite. And I think part of that for me was an insecurity and feeling that I was not living my life in a way that I was happy with. And that's definitely true, I would say, for most of my life, that I was listening to the voices in society, sometimes in my family, sometimes other places, that are saying, you need to live life in this specific way. You need to be maximizing your earning potential and go and find the job you're going to make the most money at. And that's like the right thing to do. And I was, always going back and forth between doing that and kind of listening, as you said earlier in the show, listening to my heart and like listening to what I thought I felt like I would be the happiest doing and I should be doing. And for the first time, I would argue in the last year, like I've really, I forget what the idiom is for it, but I put it all on the table. Is basically I have just put 100% of my being into what I'm doing. Thankfully, I think because of the motivation of having this platform and having this community that supports me, but putting it all out there. And I think for the first time in my entire life, I look back on this year and I think, if the worst happens, if I die tomorrow, like I'm kind of going to be okay with it. I think for the first time in my life, just because I've actually been doing what I'm passionate about and actually doing what I'm most interested in doing. And that's just the guiding path for me. And actually, I'm going to bring up a quote. So I told you I have words of wisdom on my channel. No, I didn't tell you this. So one of the other channel points for redemptions on my channel is words of wisdom, where people ask me to, and I'll talk about a specific quote or a specific passage from something and talk about how, what it means to me. They become very, very popular on my channel, and there's a number of different, and I can share a few of them on the show, but let's see, one moment. Let me just find the right one. Okay. And this relates to a couple of things you were talking about and the way what we've been talking about. But for me, success is not a public thing. It's a private thing. It's when you have fewer and fewer regrets. And so like this idea that I think we like to think of success as this public thing. It's like, I'm going to be successful when other people have decided I'm successful, and that like, I'm going to be happy when that happens. I found complete bogus, like the times where I've been doing the thing that like society would think is the most successful, like working for Facebook, one of the biggest companies in the world, but it's like, didn't bring me any happiness to like be telling people I worked at Facebook. Actually, the opposite, some of their kind of how evil the company is in some ways. But that like this idea is that success is a private thing. It's about me. It's about having fewer and fewer regrets, about living in a way where I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm really happy that I did that thing. And to expand on that, so life is easier when you know what you want, but most people don't take the time to figure out what they want, which you touched on earlier. It's not that we are completely lost, but our efforts are often slightly misdirected. People will work for years and ultimately achieve a lifestyle that isn't quite what they were hoping for, often simply because they never clearly defined what they wanted. An hour of thinking can save you a decade of work. So I think I've lucked into this one. Is basically, I was just really lucky to finding what I was passionate about. There were times where I went against that. And, when I went to go work for Viacom in New York and Facebook, and there were things about those that made me happy. But I was ignoring what my calling was. And I think that was pretty clear, even before I got my master's. And that I think when I've gravitated more towards my passion, towards my bliss, that's when I've been really maximizing things.
So Mac, just for repeating it, I want you to repeat the first part of that quote about success being a private thing, not a public. What was the line before it or after it?
Yeah, for me, success is not a public thing. It's a private thing. It's when you have fewer and fewer regrets.
Right. And who said this quote?
That's a good question. So there is one of the main books that I recommend is a book called Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits is written by an author named James Clear. And the book is all about how making small changes, but doing those small changes every single day for as many days as you possibly can leads to astronomical change over time. And so I was already doing this, and I learned about this principle from Jerry Seinfeld, actually, or some book I was reading that referenced Jerry Seinfeld, where basically they were asking Jerry, how did you become such a successful comedian? And what he did was something called the X effect, where he would take a calendar every single day, he would write down to write a joke, at least one joke, and that's it. That was the only requirement. If he wrote a joke or he sat down to write, he would mark an X in his calendar. And the effect of that is that over time, it feels really rewarding to mark that X in there. You're having a sense of accomplishment. But on the opposite is once you have this streak of having, a month, 2 months, 6 months of writing a joke every day, and you're thinking about, oh, today I don't really feel like it. No, I don't want to break my streak, so I'm going to do it no matter what. Can be really powerful. So that's basically what this whole book is about, Atomic Habits. And he really breaks it down in a really nice way, in a really actionable way. And so the author of this book, Atomic Habits, he has a newsletter that I would recommend subscribing to. And basically every week, he just has a series of quotes that he'll send out. They'll usually be loosely themed around some idea. So both of the quotes that I just wrote were from one of his newsletters. I'm not sure who the quote is from, but I bet if we Google exactly that quote, we would find it.
Awesome. Yeah, great stuff. This is what I really love, what I'm really passionate about. Mac, my objective is to work with leaders who are heart-centered leaders who maybe have seen some success in terms of business, but really understand also the value of helping others. And you help others by creating these good habits for yourself. A leader is not a leader unless he's leading by example, and that's sort of some of the philosophies that as a martial artist we talked about. There used to be this instructor's creed. I will teach this class as if it's the most important class I will ever teach. I am patient and enthusiastic. And the third one was, I will lead by example. And I think that's really a key. So I've curated a bit of a group here in Ottawa with an amazing group of leaders who are just some heart-centered people. Again, they may have seen some success, but they're just really about helping others. So we've got a couple of projects on the go. A special shout out to Sandra Mio, who is working for one of the local member of parliaments here, Mac, and is helping families from Afghanistan out and come to live over here in Canada. And she just put out something that there's a family of 8 that is moving to Ottawa and is sort of at the helm of sort of putting together some clothing and furniture and what have you for this family. And this is the kind of stuff that we're trying to put together. So special shout out to Sandra Mio for that. But I love this. Oh, there it is. Toni Morrison. There you go, Mac.
Morrison.
Yeah, but for me, success is not a public thing; it's a private thing. It's when you have fewer and fewer regrets. Absolutely. So this is all great stuff, Mac. I love it. I'm so glad that you spent some time actually talking a little bit about what I call the spiritual part of you and the spiritual part of what you're doing. But I kind of, as we approach the end of the show, I kind of want to talk a little bit about Funklectic and sort of what's happening with that. How did this all come to be, and what's sort of the message with the show?
Yeah, so let's see, 69 Fridays ago, I think somebody had said I should create some sort of, I should have a weekly show of some kind. I think I had just been playing on Twitch here and there, mostly through my Pittsburgh DJ community called Pittsburgh Funk Fam. And I not only wanted to create a show that I could play on, but I wanted to collaborate with other DJs and uplift other DJs. I think, yeah, to your previous message, yeah, it's about lifting other people up and supporting other people, which I think I think it's a definition of motivation that I've seen or what gives the most motivation that I've found in some books that I've read, and the three keys are autonomy, so being able to kind of choose what you're doing. Mastery, I believe, is the second one, of being able to get better and better at something. And the third one, though, is purpose. And I think that is, again, when we talk about this last year for me, is, when I was at Viacom, when I was at Facebook, like no autonomy. I really didn't have mastery, actually. I did not love the role that I was doing, which is basically project manager, nor was I particularly good at it. And I didn't have purpose. I didn't, there were times where there was a little bit of purpose, but didn't really have that part of it. And so I think, again, where Twitch has really provided such a great opportunity for me is all three of those things in a big way. Autonomy, I control every aspect of my Twitch channel. And I don't really have to answer to anybody for that. Mastery, just being able to create and get better and try new things. And then purpose, though, this idea of being able to actually try and make other people's lives better through our community, through these books, through these words of wisdom and different things that have been useful for me. But I think Funklectic fits really well into that, just because it's this idea of not only kind of creating a platform and building a platform for myself, but helping lift up other smaller streamers or other streamers in general, but also expanding our community in general. So working with other DJs across the world. So Funklectic was created and was just I think three of us on the very first one. I think it was my good friend Funkmaster Fletch and DJ Tanner in the very first one. And the idea originally is I did want it to also be an audio visual showcase as much as I could. I wanted to work with other video DJs, particularly ones that created their own content like I do. And so DJ Tanner is my good friend from outside of Toronto, in the Niagara area of Canada. And he and I have known each other for over a decade. Right when I started making music videos and sharing them, he was somehow found me nearly right away and gave me a lot of words of encouragement on what I was doing, which is really important to kind of keep me going. And we've been supporting each other for the last decade. And I was thinking, it'd be really great if we could play a show together sometime in the future. And again, this is one of the things that the Twitch allowed for. While we're not physically in the same location, we can throw virtual events together. So he wasn't on Twitch yet, but I said, hey, Tanner, you got to get on Twitch. Helped him get set up on Twitch and helped get him on Funklectic. But then, very shortly after that, there's actually, let's walk back to the name. So Funklectic, I was looking for a name for the event. And as we've talked about, funk is kind of an essential core to a lot of my favorite things musically. But what I've always loved in my shows is, there's some DJs that say, hey, I am a house DJ, or I'm a drum and bass DJ, or I'm a hip hop DJ. And they're kind of like, that's all I'm going to play, or something, something like that, which is, all the power to you. But for me, it's the opposite. It's like what I find the most interesting, the sets that I love the most, and that I think are the most motivating and interesting to me are ones that spawn, that go across all different genres. And so the idea of Funklectic was basically funk plus eclectic is basically there's going to be this core of funk, but then it's going to expand to really almost whatever you want to play outside of that. And I think there's a sense of freedom for that as well, of like, hey, you can experiment and go outside and play these different things. That was perfectly what I wanted to do, and I wanted to be around other people that felt the same way. And so I slowly started reaching out to other DJs. There was a who's become a good friend, a DJ at the time, Aiden Scott, who was very successful out of Philadelphia. Reached out to him to see if he wanted to come on, and he came on Funklectic Volume 3. And then right after that, I shot my shot as the kids say, and reached out to DJ B-Side from the UK, who I had been making music videos for a while and had known a little bit. But at the time, it was like, okay, it would be great if we could get him on the show. And, what's the worst that would happen? He would say no. He instantly said yes. Then I had to think, oh wait, he's in the UK. How are we going to make the timing work? And basically the answer to that was that, and this became the case for many Funkletics afterwards, is that I would basically play a really long set all through the night until the UK woke up. And then we would have a UK artist or a European artist at in the morning, which I eventually went back on to live up to my words of wisdom of getting 8 hours of sleep a night. But it became this amazing thing where every week we would bring in new DJs from Thailand or from
Nice.
UK, from Scotland, wherever. There may be lots from Canada, and we've had like over 80 different DJs, probably almost 100 at this point. Different DJs play Funklectic over the last 69 weeks. And it's become this just weekly party where people know that they can come and be part of the community. But yeah, one of the things that I'm the most proud of it are uplifting lots of DJs around that might not have the biggest platform. That because my channel generally does pretty well. What I'll try and do these days is be one of the first ones on Funklectic. And then I raid over to one of these other streamers that are coming on to give them a nice big jolt for their stream. But for me, it's this weekly platform. They've become the place where I will play my new world premieres, my new music videos, and that people can come and expect and say, hey, if I tune in to Mac on Fridays, you're gonna see some new videos.
That's awesome. And Josh wrote in the chat, but it was in the earlier days, it wasn't uncommon for Mac to do a 10, 12, or 14-hour set. Holy smokes.
At least actually, there was a time where at least 8 hours every set was kind of becoming the norm. And yeah, there were several times the 14 or 15-hour sets. And for my birthday 1 year ago, so my birthday is November 3rd coming up, and I will be doing a big stream for that. I did my first 24-hour stream, which was absolutely awesome. It was difficult by the end of it, but it was fantastic. And then not too long after that, I think 3 or 4 weeks after that, I did a 25-hour stream. And not only was it a 25-hour stream, it was all animation. So I do all of these different theme sets on my channel, and one of my favorite ones, I absolutely love animation and love making animated music videos. It was all 25 hours of it was all animated music videos. I think I played one puppet video by accident, so it's become a running joke that the animation specials are 100% animated music videos, no puppets, where I haven't repeated the mistake, but sometimes I would throw in a puppet video by mistake, ruining the 100% animated goal.
Nice. That's awesome. I mean, it's interesting, but is there any just for on a personal note, Mac, in terms of like anime and this kind of stuff? I mean, I was listen, I'm a little sort of older than anime, when anime started sort of coming to the forefront of a lot of these movies and shows, but the music in some of these anime productions is incredible, with literally orchestras playing with the movie. Is when you talk about these animated things, are there sort of, is that connected to a little bit to sort of this anime stuff?
So generally speaking, when I'm sampling things for music videos, I actually purposefully will turn the sound off always. Like, I think listening to the music and the sound of something, I think removes some of the possibilities of where I might take it musically. Like basically I'm looking at things purely visually and thinking, what would I match with this, and vice versa. When I listen to a song, what kind of visuals am I going to match with that? But there are some examples of some music videos I would play where they are like remixing, the music from the actual anime and things like that. And that is something that I am planning on getting more into in the future, is going back to my roots, which is remixing. So I bought Ableton Live a few months ago, and after using Logic Pro, one of the other big digital audio workstations, one of the ways to record music, I switched from Logic Pro a couple months ago, and Ableton Live basically, and the biggest reason for that is Ableton Live allows you to actually remix video, and you're able to, it's not perfect, but you're able to bring in video into the software and sort of do the audio visual mix together. And so that's something I definitely want to do more of in the future, is more of my own kind of audio visual remixes. Is more difficult and more time consuming, but I think it's like more sort of enjoyable for me in some ways.
That's awesome. As a, on a side note, Mac, I did a course with Berkeley College called the Science of, or the Technology of Music, and we used Ableton as sort of the DAW.
Yeah, Ableton's great, and most people, I would say, the other big reason I switched to it is I think most of the people in our music scene, and this music scene is kind of used to be called ghetto funk. I think I call it bass funk these days. Again, this core of funk, but really taking bass music production, electronic music production, taking modern drums, and incorporating that with the funk. Most people, I think, in our scene are using Ableton Live, and so there's a lot of great like tutorials and things around it. So I think it'll be a really good benefit for me to be able to check out their tutorials when I'm making these audiovisual remixes.
That's awesome. Listen, we're almost at 1:30, and I want to make sure that you're there for your show. But Mac, I got to tell you, what an absolute pleasure. There's no doubt why Poutine Nation put us together, and we were super excited to have you. I just want to really say thank you for taking this time to be with us and be with sort of our friends here at the Coffee and Biscotti show, and everyone in the Twitchiverse. I love what you're doing, Mac. I really do. I think this is such a wonderful thing, and wonderfully to be able to sort of unite, your passion for your virtues and values in sleep and eating healthy and meditation, and putting it together in making it part of your show. And it's really great stuff. I'm super excited for you. I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. We already know where we're rating to, Josh, so we'll wait for, and we'll give a few moments for Mac.
Give me about five minutes or so. Yeah, just look for me to go live. It'll be soon.
Awesome. I will let you go, Mac, but thank you again for being with us. Sending you lots of love, brother, and I will be there in your stream in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Mel, and thank you, Poutine Nation, for connecting us. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Mac. Much love, bro. Peace. Normally, we would put him in the green room, folks, but today he is going to be live on his stream. DJ Maculate, he was here with us today. What an awesome dude. I love what he's doing. I think it's great. If you have any questions, we're going to raid over to DJ Maculate's stream just in a few minutes. But of course, I want to take a moment here at sorry, what's this, Josh? He's jumping right on stage and skipping the green room today. Indeed, he is. Want to spend a few minutes, guys, now that there's a few of you here getting ready to raid over, to talk about the vision board workshop that I will be running on Wednesday, October the 27th. I'm hoping for a really great turnout to chat about this powerful tool. And it's funny, the idea of Mac coming on to the show and talking about meditation and talking about eating healthy and talking about sleep. These are all things that will be part of one's vision board, because these are sort of some of the important ingredients, if you will, of building this 8-piece pizza pie, and and really getting clear on what it is that you want from each of these important components or areas of your life. Thank you, Josh, for sharing that. There's the upcoming vision board. You can click on the link in the chat. I will put it up here so you guys can participate and be there with me. Poutine Nation, you will help me in making sure that it'll be on Zoom. There's a Zoom link that's already been created, but of course we will stream that on Twitch as well, so that you can be with us live. As we go through the vision board workshop. So really would love to have you all there. I'm glad we got an opportunity to take a few moments just to talk about that. And of course, next week, we are going to be live in Ontario's capital in the 6 in T-Dot. I will be with Poutine Nation live on location. Shout out to Vinny Cap and the West End Athletic Club, because we will be there streaming live from Toronto with our guest next week, Vanita Gupta, who is this incredibly intelligent and beautiful woman who is, we're going to find out a little bit more about her. I was referred to her from a dear friend, my dear friend Albert Wong's wife, who stumbled upon her Instagram, and I started looking at her stuff, and just an absolute incredibly intelligent woman. She's a PhD, MBA or master's degree, and sort of decided that she's going to give it all up in terms of the industry that she was working in, and become a coach. And her Instagram is just wonderful. So you'll get a chance to meet Vanita Gupta next week here on the Coffee and Biscotti Show. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, an awesome show with Maculate, aka DJ Maculate. Shout out to my friend Poutine Nation, who's always here, always helping out with the Coffee and Biscotti Show. So thank you so much, Josh. I look forward to seeing you in less than a week, my friend, where we will be together. So looking forward to that. Still waiting on DJ Maculate to be live, but we'll raid out shortly. Thank you, sir. But again, just super happy for all of you to join us here. Shout out to Twillo Lifestyle. Shout out to at Sandra Mio. I wanted to give a shout out to Basilicious. And thank you, my therapist, for the follow. Appreciate you guys coming in and joining us here on the Coffee and Biscotti Show. We will wait for DJ Maculate to go live before we raid. But what a pleasure. What an absolute pleasure. Josh, what are we at? Is this our 40th show ourselves? Max said he's on number 69. So I think we are on 40 or 41 this week. And we are going strong, my friends. We have some great guests coming up. 38? Okay, there you go. See, almost there. 38 shows, all part and parcel because I have a dear friend like Josh who is always helping him out. So if you don't follow at Poutine Nation, make sure you follow him. Because he's always doing some great stuff as well. And of course, I'm wonderfully blessed to have him sort of moderate this show as well. But I'm looking forward to this week. I don't know, Josh, can I mention anything about our guest coming in? Is that sort of under the covers for now? Or can we talk a little bit about our special guest who was a guest here on the Coffee and Biscotti Show, but we will be doing some cool stuff next week. Make sure if you don't follow me at Crew Mel Bellissimo on Instagram, Mel Bellissimo on Facebook, Mel Bellissimo on LinkedIn. make sure you follow, because there's going to be some cool stuff coming up in the next week. With me taking this trip to Toronto, it's going to be awesome. Some cool things are happening. But again, don't forget to be there for the vision board workshop. DJ Mac said he's almost ready. So look forward to going to see him. Let's see. Yeah, what can people expect? Great question, Josh. Thanks for asking. The vision board workshop, guys, is when you create your own vision board, you talk about creating or using a powerful tool that really helps in getting some clarity. And you heard it from Mac today. He said most people don't even know what their dream life looks like. So this is the tool to help people move a little closer to understanding what it is that they desire most. We call it the desired state of what people want. So I don't do vision boards with goals in mind. I do vision boards with desired states. And there's a significant difference to that, because we're not talking, and I'll give one example for you now. We're coming out of a pandemic that has affected us for 19, 20 months. And maybe one of your goals is to meet some new people now that sort of things are slowly opening up. That's a great goal. But what would be the desired state? And if we're talking in terms of your piece of the pie called tribe or social or whatever it is, the desired state is to belong to groups of people that support the best version of yourself. That's a significant difference. The goal could be, I want to meet some new great people. But the desired state is to belong to groups that support the best version of yourself. And we're going to talk about all these different things in the vision board workshop, and sort of distinguishing the difference between what is a goal and what is a desired state. And, what I hope that you leave with is inspiration. Is an inspiration to go and create this board. Again, we're going to talk about the various forms of vision boards. I've used and continue to use Pinterest as my medium for creating a vision board. So you can do whatever you like. Most people still like the old-fashioned, get a Bristol board, cut out words and pictures from magazines. But whatever that you decide to do, that you just get inspired to go and create a vision board for yourself, because it really is a very, very powerful tool. So I hope you'll join me as we will have some sort of activities that we will be doing that day to help us start the process. That's what's happening, guys. It's starting the process. You're not going to create the vision board in one sitting, or you're not going to do this in 1 hour. As a matter of fact, I work with my clients for a period of 8 months before they actually, and within those 8-month process, create a vision board that's specifically for them with their own love and passion and desired state. So we're a few seconds out. Thank you again to all of you that have joined me here today on the Coffee and Biscotti Show. Look forward to you next week as we go live from the T-Dot. Poutine Nation, let's raid away. DJ Maculate coming up. Looking forward to seeing all of you there. Much love. Peace.